So it's been 10 years since last I heard about a possible Matrix sequel. But nothing came of it, until suddenly this new trailer came out a couple months back, out of nowhere, and it surprised the heck out of me when I realized that they were actually serious and not just, threatening to ruin our edgy preteen phase with a soulless cash grab. Back when we were all like, I'm a cool 12-year-old, I like guns and leather suits and gritty cyber bullshit. Star Wars is for babies. Until we got back into college and became Star Wars fans again. But then Disney ruined the ride. Oh, that was just me? Oh, okay. Speaking of Disney, when I first saw that Matrix trailer, I thought to myself, oh boy, we're getting Force Awakened or Last Jedi'd again, aren't we? And the more I see these nostalgia bait movies, the more they seem like the elderly remake deluxe edition. Old people trying to prove to the rest of us that they're still with it. Not to make fun of the more experienced members of my audience, but we all know the game by now, right? It's basically the same movie as the first one, with the characters you remember, but now, they're older. Like the rest of us, unfortunately. I'm no spring chicken either. These regurgitated franchises give us the opportunity to enjoy nostalgia and experience an existential crisis at the same time. Because there's nothing like watching your aging childhood heroes to make you realize that you'll be looking like that real soon. Yesterday I was just like you. Tomorrow you'll be just like me. Frankly, at this point we all know that Hollywood has lost its touch. Why and how that's the case is not the point of this video, but The Matrix, this movie that we're talking about, is a self-admitted retread of the first successful Matrix formula, or at least its superficial elements, as I'll explain later. But this is basically a repeat of the first movie. That kind of sequel, remake, reboot that studios do when they want to excite the fans but play it safe at the same time to make money. And when they do, quote-unquote, experiment with new ideas, like in The Last Jedi, they're not actually experimenting with new ideas. They're just commenting on the original movies in an almost meta-commentary fashion and criticizing things through a cynical postmodern lens or getting political for no reason. In fact, they contaminate those old classics with our current ridiculous perspectives born from our declining civilizations. Inflation isn't transitory! We're all gonna die! Hollywood is mostly afraid of betting on new ideas because these big productions have a lot of money on the line. So they just think, why don't we just repeat what made money before? It worked then, it'll work now, right? Or worse, they say something like, why don't we revisit the old themes but add a fresh new current year perspective from our polarized culture? There's no way that'll backfire. Real big brain time from Hollywood geniuses. Truly, I am just in awe of all those massive Hollywood brains. Clearly they know what they're doing. It's not like Hollywood is starting to face some real serious competition from foreign entertainment industries or anything like that. Oh wait, never mind. Anime is doing better these days. Of course, anime has the advantage of being animated, which is cheaper than live action, which is what the West prefers to do. And a lot of these anime are an adaptation of already popular manga. But my point still stands. Hollywood does seem very brain dead now when it comes to resurrecting these old boomer franchises. The Matrix is an already popular brand, even though it has been dead for like 20 years. But it does have that familiar pull. But Hollywood doesn't seem to understand that they don't have to overemphasize the familiarity of these franchises by basically retelling the first movie or doing meta commentary on the originals, like Disney did with Star Wars. At the same time, we have seen Hollywood try entirely new ideas with these classic franchises, but then it just feels way off and not at all what these old stories were meant to be. So you're telling me that the Predators, fearsome cosmic hunters, want to kidnap an autistic child, get his DNA, and inject themselves with Asperger's. What? And not to be insensitive, but the idea of an advanced alien species traveling across the galaxy to get human Asperger's syndrome so that they can evolve into the next stage of evolution. What were the writers smoking? And I don't want to be a dick. One of my best friends has Asperger's syndrome, and he's a genius. He's an astrophysicist with a PhD, and he's a world-class scientist. So I get the idea of associating Asperger's with genius. But using the storyline for the Predator franchise? The Predators are hunters, man, not genetic engineers. If you're trying to put a positive spin on a condition and make people of this community seem heard and included, there's a better way to do that than threatening to kill the kid and eviscerate him with alien technology in your movie. But anyway, I'm getting off track. What I am saying is that these soulless cash grab movies have to avoid going completely off the rails, while simultaneously avoid being completely safe and just remaking the original movie if they want to be actually successful cash grabs. I get it, guys. We all want money. I want money, you want money, Johnny and Sally want money. Everybody wants money. But at least do the work and stop being lazy about it or going completely insane. You're better off respecting these very classic stories that you guys made yourselves. If you don't respect these classic works that you own, and that a lot of you participated in making the original versions of, how can we respect these works now? That's the thing. That's why we make 20-minute, 30-minute long videos complaining about this stuff. Because you pulled us into these stories, you made us care about them, only to what? Viciously murder them in front of us? Get out of here. I'm gonna become a weeb now for the rest of my life because you guys just won't respect your... Anyway, I'm getting emotional. What they really have to do when it comes to bringing back these old successful stories is recreate the original feeling of the original story, but not recreate the story itself. The former means repeating the abstract aspects of the original story, but still having a new story, while the latter is lazily and ridiculously repeating the story beats like one of those 40-year-old losers still acting like they're in their high school glory days, and that's just sad. We all feel sad when we see that. And what do I mean about recreating the abstract aspects of a story? Well, when it comes to using The Matrix as a case study for what I mean, the guys behind this movie had to recreate the feeling of uncovering a mysterious truth and reproducing mind-blowing revelations about reality based on established philosophy, which is then popularized and made digestible to the masses. And through these movies, everyone can finally enjoy some of the stuff that we philosophy nerds have been fanboying about all this time. That's one of the things that I liked about The Matrix, is that it popularized, Plato's allegory of the cave. This was the draw of the first film. The what is real? How do you define real? Not the blue pill or the white bunny tattoo or the robot tentacle things reminiscent of that dubious anime genre that we never talk about on YouTube. All these things were superficial elements of the movie. They were just a means of invoking that sense of discovering the truth, which everyone liked. Spider-Man No Way Home is actually an example of good nostalgia baiting. Good overall, I mean, as nostalgia bait itself. The plot was too riddled with plot holes and had random stuff happening. But when it comes to the nostalgia bait, they actually created a new story that still fit the original spirit of the old movies. And that's how you resurrect an old set of movies. That film was so successful that Tobey and Garfield might actually come back as regulars in the Spider-Man franchise again. That movie wasn't a masterpiece by any means, but it did get the job done. And it made $1 billion, while The Matrix is floundering financially. So take note, Hollywood. Back to The Matrix. They should have focused on reusing the deeper formula of the original movie. And what is this deeper formula? Well, according to my calculations, it's the art of making snobby stuff cool and entertaining. I ran it through in my computer, and I have discovered the OG Matrix formula that made it so successful. Behold, it's a combination of A. Classic literature, B. A philosophical school of thought, C. Modern science fiction setting, and D. Cool new action genre elements, which for the first Matrix means Alice in Wonderland, plus Plato's allegory of the cave and metaphysics, plus robots, plus kung fu. So if you want to regurgitate an old franchise, do not devolve into South Park member-berry bullcrap. Remember the blue pill? I remember. Remember the white rabbit tattoo? I remember. Remember the overbearing romance which just kind of happened with no real chemistry or build-up or anything other than a magic prophecy contrivance? Oh, I definitely remember. I think it's the first sex scene I've ever seen. Anyway, here's my armchair script on how I would navigate this tightrope of giving people more of what they want while breaking away from just repeating the same superficial story beats and basically hoodwinking the audience to paying into seeing the first movie again, but with older actors. So in my Matrix film, since Neo quote-unquote died at the end of the last movie, we could just repeat the formula of classic literature plus philosophy plus metaphysics plus sci-fi plus action shenanigans with sick action scenes by combining Dante's Inferno plus Heraclitus plus virtual world stuff plus fantasy swordplay. So like SAO, but for big boys. I mean, think about it, guys. Just have fun with it. We could have a story where Neo's consciousness was trapped deep within the programming of the Matrix in a kind of hell-like place. You know, a type of deep Matrix or dark Matrix, obviously referencing the dark web. And it's a place where obsolete programs are lost or thrown into, which is kind of alluded to in the second movie. And you can explore that more, the rejected programs, and this dark underbelly of the Matrix where they live in, which is separate from the Matrix, but part of the Matrix, but a darker version. And the laws of physics here are all kind of trippy and fantasy-like. And the story would be Neo trying to escape as he passed through the different stages of this weird false reality, as he would then face epic challenges along the way. We could see him face his own demons in a trippy, surreal, and dreamlike locations as he traversed through the different stages of this dark matrix. And then he would enter the normal matrix, which would be the equivalent of Dante's Purgatory. And then he could enter the real world, which would mimic Dante's paradise. And this journey would have Neo discover mysteries about the Matrix and its true nature, as well as what happened to the real world and Zion after all the years he's been dead. Oh, and give him a badass sword, just for the lols. Instead of using kung fu genre elements, this time we can have sword and sorcery elements with trench coats. Maybe in the Dark Matrix, you can have the equivalent of magic, and magic could be more used in this Dark Matrix, where not just he has the ability to do force pushes and stuff like that, but every program and human consciousness trapped down there kind of has that thing because of the laws of that Dark Matrix, kind of shifting the genre a little bit and blending fantasy and sci-fi in an interesting new combination. And maybe in this Dark Matrix, Neo discovers that dark AI programs have joined forces with corrupted human minds that could not be maintained in the current Matrix, but they also didn't have the ability to escape to the real world, so they just were thrown in with programs that had been rejected by the system. And this way we can explore a plot line where rejected humans and rejected artificial intelligences work together to try to destroy the good humans and artificial intelligences that made a truce in the last movie. So it would be like the emergence of a new threat kind of thing. And we can see humans and machines fighting against humans and machines, but this time for goals and ideals instead of just, humans versus machines. It would be interesting to see what ideologies an AI would fight for and how they could team up with humans with similar ideologies. And that could be an interesting thing to explore. And Neo, upon discovering this new threat, has to journey through several different realities to come back to the real world and warn the real world people and AI and machines about this threat. And when he finally comes to the real world, we can see how the world has moved on from the world we knew in the first trilogy. The real Matrix could be now a voluntary thing that humans do from time to time to help power the machines and offer them their body's energy voluntarily as friends. And in the real world, we can see machines helping to build new human cities alongside human workers. So we get the sense that things have changed and moved on from the first movie. And unexplored elements of the first trilogy, like the old versions of the Matrix, having rejected obsolete programs and etc., and all those ghosts of this old oppressive system can come back to haunt this new peaceful world, because the wounds of an old war still festers and threatens the new peace, which happens all the time in the real world. A lot of new wars in the real world are the results of unresolved issues from the older wars. And we can kind of see this explored in the new Matrix movie. And if you want to have Aria Telope here back in the franchise, I'm sure you can make her into a contrived program copy of her consciousness crap like they did in the actual movie, and have her act like Neo's Beatrice, who then guides him out of the Dark Matrix. But I don't know, that's only if you want that. And as Neo and Trinity travel from the Dark Matrix to the regular Matrix and then to the real world to warn everyone, the movie could explore Heraclitus' philosophy instead of Plato's philosophy in the original trilogy. And we can explore Heraclitus' ideas of war as fundamental to the nature of the universe, just like how the OG Matrix was about the Platonic idea of reality as we experience it actually being an illusion upon our senses. But all this is just my suggestion on what I would think is really cool, and what would get me to pay for watching this thing in theaters. Because I actually haven't watched The Matrix. I just saw the story online by other YouTubers because I'm not paying to see this thing. And that's why it flopped. But anyway, does a fantasy Dante's Inferno Matrix thing sound weird and unnecessary? Sure, I agree, but it's better than the rehashed stuff we got right now. If you're going to regurgitate an old cash cow, at least have fun with it, you know what I mean? Take it for a ride. And if you agree that Matrix with Dante's Inferno, Heraclitus, and swordplay sounds cool, then leaving me a like and subscribing would help out a lot around here. Thank you all for listening to my ramblings. Have a good day, my friends.